What I want to talk about today, how to make this new work world, this new hybrid work environment, more successful for you, for your company, no matter if you are an employer or an employee. We'll have a look at we will have a look at the topic from different angles. As always, feel free to use the chat function to ask any questions that you might have. So, what I want to talk about today, or the reason why I want to talk about the topic hybrid work or how it can be an accelerator for your digital transformation is, for the one hand, of course, over the last years, a lot of circumstances changed on the one hand, but on the other hand, I still see a lot of mistakes being made whenever I talk to people in the field. So therefore, I want to share some of the insights, some of the thoughts that I have today with you. So I think the overarching question is a little bit how to make the new work, meaning how to deal with the ever-changing requirements, maybe COVID rules. Right now we have summer or spring, summer in the northern hemisphere. Therefore, a lot of the cases are going down. Therefore, a lot of countries have eased a lot of the restrictions. Some countries brought them back. So therefore, I think we need to be aware that this kind of uncertainty and this kind of situation will stay for some time with us, maybe forever. I personally don't think that we will go back to normal or that we will go back to a 2019 environment. That just won't happen. So therefore, let's talk a little bit about what you can do, what you shouldn't do to make sure you survive on the one hand and make the best out of the situation on the other hand. So what I want to talk about four main areas. I want to talk about doctrine, about company doctrine. I want to talk about productivity, what that means, and why it's so important, and why it's often used completely wrong from my perspective. I want to talk about onboarding, and I want to talk about compensation. So these are the four main areas I think you should also to focus on. If you want to affect your situation, your company, your work situation positively, and get to the most out of your team. So let's talk about company doctrine, and you probably know the word doctrine more in a military context, and that's absolutely true. That's where it's coming from, and I use that word on purpose, meaning doctrine describes kind of the overarching strategy or idea or understanding of a team, of a group, or of a military, of an army, meaning the overarching strategy and the overarching or underlying principles, if you want to. And I want to use two German words that you might heard of, maybe never heard of, from the military realm, meaning Befehlstaktik versus Auftragstaktik. And if you don't speak German, that's what it means, roughly translated: order command versus mission command. What do I mean by that? As I said, it has a military background because, basically till the, let's say, First World War, there was a pretty simple leadership structure in basically all militaries over the world, all modern armies all over the world, meaning you have the officers and they give very strict, detailed orders to their frontline people or foot soldiers, and then they executed the orders. There was very little room for decision making on the soldier level. All the strategy, all the decision making was done on a higher echelon. And then, at some point in time, the German army, probably in the Second World War, kind of changed that doctrine or developed a new doctrine, at least at that time. Again, what was then called kind of Auftragstaktik, or what we today call mission command or mission type command, meaning the soldier or the executing personnel didn't get a strict order what to do, but rather what the goal of the mission was and why. And then they come up with their own plan, their own execution, because the underlying idea is that the frontline troops know the situation best and can make the best decisions, have the best information, because they get direct feedback, compared to some officers way behind the lines, who is so distant from the actual fighting or decision making in that context. So again, on the one hand, we have what we could call order command, meaning the boss or the leader or whoever gives just a strict order, what to do, when to do, how to do it. So very little room for interpretation and also very little room for decision making or how would you say that? Individual execution. Okay, and then the second type, mission command, meaning we have a goal, we have a mission that we want to achieve, we have a business goal that we want to achieve, and we brief the team, and then they execute and they fulfill the mission on their own and make the decisions necessary to adapt to the situation in the field. And we can see these two kind of doctrines literally unfolding in real time right now, especially when we look at the Ukraine-Russia conflict, because Ukraine, it looks like, gives their soldiers a high amount of autonomy in their execution. It's more a guerrilla type warfare, meaning everybody is acting very independently to achieve the overarching goal on the one side, and on the other side, the Russian army, which has this very old school type of leadership where the officers or the generals give very strict orders that the soldiers have to follow, and the soldiers themselves have very little autonomy and very little decision-making power. That's, for example, one of the reasons why you see so much news about that Russian generals, because if you have to be so close to the front line to control and micromanage your troops all the time, then you might get hit by something. And if we're talking about a war situation, then it can be deadly. Fortunately, I hope everybody listening and watching isn't in a situation like that, but more in business. But I think we can translate a lot of these different leadership styles into business, and that's one of the first things that I want to share with you, or to encourage you to do. Trust the team with the execution. Meaning, think about how you lead right now, or how you work with your team right now. Are you micromanaging everything and tell them every little step they have to do? Or do you give them the goal, the mission, tell them what you want to achieve from a business perspective, and then give them a realistic amount of autonomy and decision-making power to actually achieve that goal, and trust them that they have the best information, because they are actually the people that work with the customers every day, or produce the product every day, or fulfill the service every day, or whatever it might be. And especially when we're talking about the hybrid work context, meaning where people working remotely, where you maybe have people working from home office, maybe half of your team is working in another time zone or maybe on another continent, then you just have to do it like that, because everything else just ends in chaos and micromanaging. So I think from a maybe mindset or leadership approach here, you should again focus more on a mission command than an order command, and trust your team with the execution. Topic number 2, I want to talk about productivity. because productivity is a word that is often used in today's business HR context world, however you want to call it. And I think often in a wrong context, or it's often focusing on the wrong things. What do I mean by that? When we talk about productivity, you have to be aware that we're talking about an output-focused metric here. Meaning the word product or producing is literally in the word. I'm again not the native English speaker, but I would highly suggest that is kind of the root of the word, meaning to produce something, and that in a most efficient way, or in a better way, or in a good way. That's productivity. And therefore, however you measure the output, or what kind of output you measure in your business, can be different, and you have to define that for yourself. But whenever we talk about productivity or increasing productivity, I think we need to be very clear that we talk about increasing the output. And often when I talk with decision makers or people in the field, I often get the impression a lot of people think, yay, we have more hours worked, or we have a new software implemented and now we have more hours tracked. And now we think we are more productive. And just to remind you, more hours tracked or more hours worked is not the goal here, and has nothing to do with productivity. That just means your people are busy, or that you are busy. Again, nothing wrong with tracking certain metrics and collecting data to make then better decisions in the future. But again, you need to make sure that you actually focus on the right things and on the right data, on the right metrics. Otherwise, you will make the wrong decisions and think maybe, well, I improve that metric, hours worked in that case maybe, but you don't improve the business outcome, which is maybe higher profitability, cash in the bank, however you want to call it. And you improve the one metric, but that doesn't affect the other one. So you always need to kind of make sure that the numbers or the data that you're focusing on actually tracking the right thing. And if you want to increase productivity or want to improve productivity, of course, probably you need to track how much hours people work on a certain project or whatever. But again, the important part here is that you need to measure the outputs and not the inputs, or to focus on the outputs and not the inputs. That's wrong here. You should measure both, but you should focus on the results and to improve the results, and not necessarily just make sure that your people are busy. That paying people by the hour is therefore a completely other problem, is a topic for another debate or another time. But if we keep it here, make sure, again, especially when we're talking about a remote team, that you measure the outputs or focus on the results, and not so much on the inputs or how many hours people actually worked on the project. Onboarding. Number 3, one of the things that I think are super important if you want to survive and thrive in this kind of new environment, is the whole onboarding process, training process, from start to the beginning, meaning that doesn't really end. Also ongoing training, I would also kind of put that into that area. And what I think is super important, that you have at least somehow standardized onboarding process. Even if you are a small organization, maybe you're under 10 people, make sure you have some form of standard where okay, no matter who I'm hiring, the person has to go through that stuff. That can be really boring administrative stuff, but also how you then actually do the work in your company, in your organization. Make sure that you take, or that you automate maybe as much as possible, where that's repeating nonetheless, or information that you need anyway. make sure that you reduce the amount of frustration as much as you can. And then the second part, be aware that it takes around 5 to 8 months for a new employee to reach full productivity levels, meaning till everybody, or not everybody, but till the new person know how everything is working, what to do, what don't to do, to talk to who, when to do what, and all the things, how it's going on in your organization. So that's the average, 5 to 8 months for a new employee. And just to give you an idea, let's say you could get from 6, let's say you are a little bit better than the average, to 3 months. You could cut that time down. However you want to do that. Maybe instead of knowing that, your newly hires have to search all the information by themselves, you maybe can collect the frequently asked questions, however you want to present them, in a folder, in a video lesson, or in a shared Google Drive document. There are enough options to do that. But just think about, if you could accelerate that process, how much money would that actually be? Just think about how much money you pay your people. Think about how productive they usually are when they start, how productive they usually are after 6 months, after 12 months. And then think about, okay, how much higher output, or how much money would you save, or however you want to measure it, how much would you actually improve from a financial standpoint, let alone that your people, your employees are happier, are more productive, work there better, are probably more loyal to you because they feel appreciated and whatnot. A lot of secondary effects. But if we limit it completely, coldly to money, I think a lot of people underestimate the return that they can generate here. And then last but not least, let's talk about compensation. A lot of companies talk about, fruit bowls, and that they are having a nice company, whatever, mission or purpose or feeling, or everybody likes each other. And then they pay their people next to nothing. So I think correct me if I'm wrong, but in my eyes, the highest form of appreciation of an employee is to pay them accordingly, or to pay them fair. And more often than not, I have the impression that employees try to cut corners here. And of course, you shouldn't overpay your employees, because again, that would also demotivate people if they see that people that don't do the work get paid an unfairly high amount of money. But be aware that people work for you to get paid money. That's the reason, not because they like your company or they like you or any other reasons that might be the second, third, or whatever reason down the line. But people work to get paid, to be able to pay their bills. That's the main reason. Of course, there are other factors. Everybody wants to work with people that they like in a nice work environment. Don't want to debate that. That's absolutely true. But again, main reason is money. And I found it funny how often people don't want to talk about money, or when they put up an ad for a position, there's no talk about the salary, just like competitive salary. Then just write it there. Competitive can mean anything, and nobody really cares about your table tennis and whatever, PlayStation 5. Just pay me nicely, then I can buy my own PlayStation or my own table kicker or football or whatever. I hope I'm not too direct here. But top talent wants top dollar. And I think especially in today's environment, where basically everybody that is highly qualified and search for or in demand in that market can work for every company on the globe, basically, especially with COVID. Remote work is kind of normalized now. And therefore, if you can't pay globally competitive rates, then the talent just goes to your competition. And again, it doesn't really matter nowadays, of course, for certain jobs where you really have to be in a physical location. And when we talk about the Caribbean, that's still the major part of jobs there. Then you literally have to be in a physical location, and then you have local salaries. But as soon as we get a little bit more into knowledge work, where people get paid for working with their brain and not so much with their physical body and then muscle power, then we are very quickly in a very competitive market. And if you want to succeed there, then you have to pay top dollar for top talent. That's just how it is. So don't complain if you don't get the right talent, if you're not willing to pay the right amount of money. All right, let's recap and try to summarize a little bit. Number one, trust your team. I think over the next years, especially companies with a great leadership approach, who train their people right, to trust their team with the execution, to listen to the feedback of their team, of the people at the front lines who actually do the work, and have contact with the clients or customers and produce the products and deliver the services. If you don't trust them, why do you hire them? Why do you work with them in the first place? Of course, that doesn't mean you need to give them access to your bank accounts and whatnot in a realistic manner here, but again, trust your team. And then focus on results. I often hear, Simon, but I can't control my people when they are not in the office, and how can I actually then control that they work, and I have to bring them back in the office. I think a lot of companies now, when COVID kind of gets a little bit more endemic, follow that and want that a lot of the employees get back into the office. And my thought is always look at the results. You see what your employees are producing. However, again, you measure that, and whatever the task or the output of your employee is, and if the employee or your team member fulfills that and achieves the goal, delivers on time with the right quality, who cares how much hours they actually worked on it, or if they were sitting in the office or sitting at home and worked from there, or whatever kind of hybrid situation we have in your situation. I think, again, focusing on results and getting rid of a lot of these old school ways of thinking is super important. Step number 3, onboard or invest in your people. Again, you spend a lot of time selecting, or you spend a lot of time with the hiring process. Now you should also invest time and money in the onboarding process, and then after the onboarding, in the ongoing training and so on. And I think companies that are successful almost always are also very famous, or at least known in the industry, because they have a very highly qualified or highly educated team. And again, when you want to kind of implement that that leadership approach of kind of mission command type, where you give your team a certain amount of autonomy, then it's important that they have the right training, that they have the right education, that they are highly skilled in what they are doing to actually to actually be able to make decisions on their own. And again, last but not least, reward performance and therefore compensate accordingly. However you want to measure performance or results in your company, in your situation, or maybe if you're the employee and you want to suggest something to your employer or some improvements here, think about how could you measure that. What are the results? What is the output? The business, business output, business results that you deliver that can actually be measured instead of hours worked. Again, I think that's one of the worst metrics that you can use. I can still remember when I yeah, when I was a kid, I sometimes, how do you say that? Cut the lawn for family or neighbors or whatnot. And yeah, usually I got paid per lawn, meaning that lawn was that and that big, and then you get X amount of money after you finished it. It wouldn't have made sense to me, and it didn't make sense to me as a child when the neighbor would have said to me, well, Simon, if you take 1 hour to cut the lawn, to mow the lawn, I pay you $10. But if you take 8 hours the whole day, I pay you 80. That wouldn't have made sense to me to be rewarded for inefficiency or laziness or whatever, or to annoy the neighbor the whole day with the noise of cutting the lawn instead of keeping it as short as possible. Or at the end of the day, the neighbor didn't really care how long I took, as long as I did it fast enough, meaning at one day and in a certain amount of quality. So what I want to tell you with that, again, focus on output, focus on results, focus on created value, reward performance, and therefore then compensate accordingly. All right, I hope that was helpful. Thanks for watching so far. I would like to hear some of your thoughts or your situations that you observed, that you experienced, where you think, that's typical and that should be improved. That's a typical problem that you see in your field. And maybe you also disagree with some things that I said. Let me know what you think. If you made it till this point, I would really appreciate a like. And if you haven't done so as yet, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you aren't connected on LinkedIn, feel free to reach out there and connect there. And that being said, thanks for taking the time out of your day. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Ciao.